How's
We
it
are
going?
rolling along. Can you believe we've done 5 episodes, or this will be episode 5?
This is episode 5. This is episode 5. It's good. It's good. It's
Yeah,
fun. It's nice having these conversations.
it- we had them anyways, so we might as well have them for other people too. Like
You know,
we
we
did it
find
anyway.
ourselves we find ourselves entertaining, so
Exactly. If nothing else, we think we're fun. Um, doesn't totally mean that everybody else does, but that's okay.
Mhm.
Um, so we're in fall. It's kind of crazy.
Going
And
into winter because it's
don't no 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 don't fast forward yet.
it's
Like
November.
it might be, it might not be yet. We don't know when this is coming out. But yeah, we're heading into fall. And or we're in fall. And it always just makes me think about, like, I don't know, fall to me is kind of like a reset season.
Mm,
Like I feel like fall is, I think, because of school, right? Like it's because
mhm.
we start school in September, so it always felt like a new year, like
Right. Yeah.
in the fall. And so I always, like in life, feel like it's like that good time to like reflect and reset and like do those types of things. Like, have you
Mhm.
found yourself, you've had obviously big life stuff in
Mhm.
fall this year, but like, do you find yourself that the fall is a reset season for you too? Like, is that like a
Yeah.
thing?
Fall is reset. Re
Mhm.
well, two things. Fall is a reset, but a reset in particular to the yearly goals I set in January
Okay.
because it's the last quarter of the year. So it's
Okay.
like, okay, what do I need to do different to be able to achieve some of the goals that I set out in January? Because January is my reset for the year, because
Mhm.
what most people do, or a lot of
Yes.
people. So,
So like fall is kind of like your final push,
yeah.
like to get stuff done.
Hmm.
Oh, that's good. Do you keep your stuff like hanging up somewhere? Like, how do you keep your goals front of mind? What's your style?
So I have like 6 areas of life, and I teach this in one of, I don't even know which course it is now. But basically
Something that we do.
looking at the different areas of life, like looking at your finances, your relationships, your emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, your physical wellness, and your career, right? And I just have goals for each one of those things, with a particular focus on one or two for the
Okay.
year, right? And that usually this year I didn't do it, but usually the last 4 years I have it up on a wall. It's because I
Okay.
moved. Like I
Yeah,
moved a
that's fair.
couple of times, so it's like, anyways, yeah. So I have
So
them up on the wall.
when you started to say 6 areas, I thought you were going to say that you had them in 6 walls. Like,
Oh
not 6,
no.
like that you had them in 6 places. I was like, oh, I'm an underachiever. Okay. I'm like,
No,
6 places. I was like, no
no,
wonder I forget what mine are because I don't have them
no,
up in 6 places.
no. In a high traffic area. That's the thing. It's
Okay.
got to be somewhere that you pass every day. And so I usually have it in my bedroom, and it's usually like the first thing I see when I wake up. It's like there's a wall, and even if I'm not consciously reading it,
Yeah.
the brain sees it. The eyes.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, do you not find like that it almost becomes like wallpaper?
It does.
Okay.
It does, but science says, research shows that even though it's just there, your brain is still taking it in because the eyes see it, the brain has to do it. You're just not paying
Oh,
attention, but the brain still
okay.
sees it.
Okay. Cool.
That's why vision boards are so effective because it's a vision and it's there, but I mean, after seeing it after weeks and weeks and weeks, you're not really paying attention to it,
But it's still
but it's
there.
still there.
Interesting.
Mhm.
The more you know with Jen.
I
The
just
more
know
you know
a
with
lot
Jen.
of weird brain stuff because I find that stuff fascinating.
The more you know with Jen. There we go. Awesome.
Yeah.
So today we're talking power, which
Power,
I feel
power.
like even the word has like emotional feelings for probably for some people. So we're talking about how to essentially be strong without
Mhm.
steamrolling, right? So essentially, how to use
Mm.
your power for good. Use your
Right.
power for good and not evil. I used to say to my son when he was growing up, because he was a really influential teenager, and I used to
Mm.
say, "Can you please use your influence for good and not evil?" So today we're talking about how to use your power for good and not evil.
Right.
It's an
Without coming
interesting
off
one.
bullish.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like, oh, here, controversial statement right off the top. I feel like we're living in a political world right now
A little bit.
where just a little bit, where we're watching like what bullying in action looks like, right? Like we're
Oh
literally,
yeah.
and by the time this airs, God knows what will have happened. Maybe it'll be all fixed. I have no idea. Um, gonna guess no. But 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 you know what I mean? Like we're living in this like time where we're literally watching bullying from the most powerful man in the world. He is demonstrating power in action in the most controversial and destructive of ways.
Yeah. And you know what? I honest and not that we're picking sides or being political or anything like that. However, whether you like him or not, he is abusing his power.
Yes.
It's an abuse of power. Like I mean, it just is.
Yeah.
So it from a psychosocial standpoint, when I try and look at it, okay, what could be going on for him? Like I'm doing the analysis of him, and I'm trying to think, okay, what could be happening for and it makes me wonder if there's a certain level of insecurities that are
I
being
was gonna say it in a way less appropriate way than you just did. So good job.
that is being masked by all of this bravado, right? Because I mean, regardless of him or just in general, when I find when people are trying to overcompensate for something, they overuse and abuse.
Inappropriate comments just gonna keep coming. So so what's interesting about what you're saying is I think, yeah, there's one way that we could look at it totally from the perspective of like, is it is it an overcompensation for an insecurity? Or or is it like I also look at it and think, because I don't always look at it from the same sort of brain lens that you do, or like psychotherapy lens that you do, but also is it a, and it might still fit into what you're saying, but is it almost like a lack of understanding as to, like, I can't get people to move through my influence, through my natural skills and abilities, and like, or I don't have the patience to sit and build the relationships and do the
Mhm.
things, and so this is how I steamroll. And for me, I almost feel like for me, it almost always comes back to relationships, right? If I have a really great relationship with people, I'm logically, if I ask them to do something, they're probably going to do it. But if I don't have a great relationship with people, then that tends to be when I go to power because I need to get stuff done. And so I've got the power, so I'm going to use it because it's faster and more efficient
Mm,
than trying to build a relationship.
mhm,
And and that's kind of where I naturally go on this type of thing, because I feel like it it feels personal.
mm.
And so I think that's why I take it back to relationships.
Yeah. Well, what you just described to me, and I don't mean for this to sound condescending at all, but I think of parent and child and how a
Mhm.
parent will negotiate with the child. Like will
Yep.
say, okay, so can we try it this way? Do, 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 do. And at the end of the day, if the child isn't going to do it, it's like, do this
Because I said so.
because I said so.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, which is the ultimate power. And I think it's interesting that you use that example, right? Because I do think that's ultimately that's ultimately what it becomes, which again leads into this like weird dynamic of okay, so now if we've gotten to the point where it's just because I said so, and I'm sure we've all worked for leaders who that
Mhm,
was the answer we would often get. And
mhm,
I think to your point that you started with, start to break that down. Why would I say because I said so? Because I've probably asked you to and you won't do it. Why won't you do it? Because you don't understand. And you probably asked me to explain it and I can't explain it well enough.
mm,
And so, or I don't know why, or I don't know what it means. And so it's always interesting to kind of like I always go into like a corporate structure, right?
mm,
Like, so we
mhm,
go into a corporate structure and I'm a mid-level manager who's got to try and create change on a front line to in the front line because the top has told me to.
mhm,
If I don't understand the decision, if I don't believe in the decision, if I don't have the confidence to back a decision I don't believe in, my natural answer is probably going to be head office says we have to do this.
mm. Yeah,
And it's not even, I'm
yeah,
not even using my power. I'm saying these guys up here, they
mhm,
said so. The
yeah.
most powerful said we had to. And so so it's like and again, what kind of so it's you start to break it down and go, okay, but why? And it's like it's usually lack of understanding, lack of confidence, all of those pieces, which probably comes back
And
to some kind of compensation.
sometimes it's a timeline thing, it's a deadline thing as
Yeah,
well, right? So I don't have the time or the patience to go through this. Just can you please just do this? I
yeah,
just need it done. Just do it.
yeah.
Right.
And I know, like, I've 100% been the leader who said to people, like, l- and I've always kind of led from a transparent standpoint, and so
Mhm,
I 100% know there have been totally times where I've said, listen, we don't actually have a choice about this, so we just need to figure out how to do it in a way that we all feel good with.
mm,
Right? Like, we're
mhm,
doing it anyways
mhm,
because it's not a choice. We've been told we have to. So, how do we do it in a way that we all feel good with? And
mhm,
starting to sort of shift the dialogue, right? Like, how
mhm,
do we actually start to shift the dialogue in those conversations so that people do feel like, versus, because I think the other option of what I could have said in that is, we have to.
mhm,
But it's like it's to me that's where the emotional intelligence side of things comes into leadership is understanding they're not going to feel good here.
mhm,
Social empathy side of things, interpersonal relationship side of things, they're not going to feel good here. My goal always is to help people feel good because that's
mhm,
my leadership style. So how do I merge these things together, recognizing the outcome's still going to be the same, the outcome
mhm,
staying as it is.
mhm. Yeah. It's interesting. So if a woman
Hmm.
acts in a certain way, assertive, need to get this done because we just really need to get it done. That looks different than when a man says, we just need to get this done. It's going to be
Mm.
done. Like, I'm just trying to think back to the different leaders that I've had throughout my career and the ones who I question more than others.
Interesting.
And I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't think it is. But I think we will question a woman more than we will question a man. And it's not necessarily because she's in not as effective or anything like that, but could it be a comfort level? Like I feel I can ask, or is it because it is a competence thing? You are questioning her competence. Like I wonder for others if
Well,
that's the same type of thing.
yeah, or is it like as you're saying that I'm like, or is the other possibility is it that I believe I can sway her more than somebody else? Like, um, yeah, it's interesting because not totally what we're talking about, but this is kind of but I think it aligns because a lot of the time when we're talking about like sort of influencing decisions, trying to get people to move, and that it comes back to change, right? And so old change management ways, we used to think the best change makers were people with the best process, right? Like that they had a good system, a good process, that they were really good at sort of saying, okay, here's the old system, here's A, B, C, D, E, F, G to move to the new system, and that they were best at managing the process. That it was almost like a project management type concept. But what we now know and where the new research sits is actually not in that, but it's actually in the fact that it's actually the most emotionally intelligent leaders who are the best change makers,
Mhm.
because they're better at managing the emotions of the change. Because in
Mhm.
change, when we think about the change curve that happens, typically the change stops happening when the emotions get really high, which is at the highest friction point because, okay, I can get on board, you give me all the reasons, cool, yeah, I'm in. And then I start to work on it with you. I'm like, okay, I'm in, but the emotions get a little bit higher. Then, like, we get to the point of actual execution. We now
Mhm.
start the change. But now there's a whole bunch of friction points because it's not as easy as it was. It's different than what you told me it was going to be, friction, friction, friction. And in those friction points is where emotion is at its highest,
Mhm.
and so the best change leaders are the people who can handle that emotion right
Mhm.
there, because the ones who can't either get angry and
Mhm.
that pushes people backwards, or give up because they hate the pressure that's coming. This is too hard, it's too
Right.
hard, it's too hard, and then they go
Mhm.
backwards, right? And but the other option is they power, and it's do it because I said so, do it because it says so. And that's where you start to see huge team turnover in
Mhm.
that window of time, right? Where all of a sudden the team's like, peace out. Good luck with this.
Mhm.
You do it on your own. Let me know how it goes. Right.
Right.
And so I I think there's so much connection between emotional intelligence and what we're talking about with this whole power thing, because it really is about recognizing all of the pieces, the assertiveness, the impulse control, the empathy, the interpersonal relationships, like all of the things that come
Mhm.
together in it.
Yeah. Yeah. How do we determine when power is being abused or when there's some toxicity
Mm.
in that leadership type style? And is it different? I'm going back to the genders because I think we think differently depending on who the leader is and the
Um,
behavior.
yeah, I actually do think this one is, I don't think it should be gendered, because I don't think anything needs to be gendered for the most part, but I don't think it should be gendered. But I do think, um, and this obviously isn't just a gender thing, isn't just a guy thing, but I think there's something to be said about the experiences that I've had and the reality that, like, I think about sport.
Mhm.
And so I know my son has like played pretty high level sports growing up, and I know some of the conversations that coaches had with him. And so, right, wrong, or otherwise, he was cool with them. He understood them. They actually worked for him. He was a kid who did really well when a coach was pretty hard on him. But I think that that experience means you put him in an environment where somebody else is going to go to power, and he's not going to stress as much about that power. And so I would question, and I don't have as much experience because I didn't have a girl who played high level sports in that same way. Is Are they coached the same way? Where if would the
Mm.
same thing happen in that situation? And not that obviously it's, but I'm just trying to like sort of go through, like, are there certain people who deal with this differently because of their lived experience? And I feel like athletes, high
Mhm.
level athletes might be a group that are used to a power dynamic like that. But Is it the same for male and female athletes? I don't know.
Mm. I think with athletes, because my kids, all three of them were in high level sports, but they are all boys.
Mhm.
Um, there's when they respect the coach,
Yes.
they're more likely to not that friction isn't there. They hear what the coach is saying and it's like, okay, yep, okay, whatever. Yep, for sure. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. When there's a certain amount of respect there. And I wonder when we're talking about power, if there is a respect for the position and for the power, is that does that is that different than when there's a lack of respect for the position
Mm,
and for the power?
interesting. I don't know, because I think even I do think some of it too is like I know, and again, is this one of those ones where it's perhaps like I know people who, if you put any level of pressure on them or tell them to do something, they reject it simply because you've told them they have to.
Mm.
And versus they would do the exact same thing if they weren't told they had to. So
It's
it's
oppositional defiant disorder.
yeah. What is it in adults still?
Same
Um,
thing.
yeah.
Same thing.
So like, but so I like I do think there are people who react in that way. And I guess it's also how are you using the power? Is it like I don't know, it starts to lead into a whole bunch of other like questions for me, right? Like cuz it's like is it fear-based? Because if it's
Mm,
fear-based, that's a total other thing to me than if it's power like because I said so, but here's a whole bunch of tools and supports to help you through it,
mhm,
right? Like and is it how it's delivered? Is it like
mhm,
I think the ultimate goal of all of this though is how do we lead without feeling like we need to go to power? What are the skills and tools that we have where we don't need to go to toxicity? Because what we know is from an EQ standpoint and a performance standpoint, if we think about it from an access standpoint, if I'm in an environment with high pressure, which is ultimately is what power is, high pressure, um, and like that's where that toxic workplace starts to come in, is
mm.
high pressure with like is tends to lead to high toxicity if it's high pressure with
No
low
support.
safety.
Yeah. Huh.
But high
I
pressure with high safety, different.
yeah. Because what I was gonna say is that sometimes the way we look at power is not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
And sometimes it is necessary. There are certain, for example, there are certain cultures that respect the hierarchy.
Hmm.
Like if you have a title, you're going to get automatically, regardless of what
Yeah,
you do, get a certain level of respect,
totally.
right? So
Totally.
hmm,
Yeah,
interesting.
and it's interesting because I agree with you. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's if you're using it for bad, right?
Abusing the power.
If you're abusing the power, right? If you are doing it as a way to gain respect. Like anytime somebody says respect is like respect should be given, and I'm like, no, no, no,
Be
no.
earned.
It's 100% earned and it can be lost just as quick as you've earned it. So yeah, so I think it's definitely it's how you use the power that then makes it good or bad. It's not the actual power.
Mhm.
It's what you do with it. Um,
What
and
happens
our
when you are afraid of your power? Like when you're intimidated by your own power, and how does that impact performance? And does it go back to one of our earlier podcasts where we talked about imposter syndrome?
I feel like if I were to look at it from an emotional intelligence standpoint, I think it would depend on it would depend on a few things, right? Like I would look at it and go, okay, if am I high in self-actualization? Like do it because if I'm high in self-actualization, then I would probably look at it as a learning opportunity. But if I'm low assertiveness, I would probably run from it. If I'm low assertiveness and low impulse control, I might scream. It's I might be a yeller. So I think that I do think that would directly, if I don't have the confidence to have the power, I think that's when I'm likely going to misuse it and not do it in a good way.
Mm. So then the question becomes, how do we become confident within our power?
Oh, how do we become confident within our power?
Because we all have a certain level of power.
Mhm.
Because we're all leaders, we all have a certain level of influence. So how do we become comfortable within the power that we hold? Maybe that's the question we end on.
That might be the question,
Mhm,
because I feel like even I need time to think about that one. That might
mhm,
be the question.
mhm.
Good one,
Yeah.
Jen. Good one.
Okay, so this is episode number 5. Thank you so much for those who followed. If this is the first episode that you've watched, please go back and take a look at some of the previous episodes. We'd love to get your thoughts on the thought-provoking questions at the end.
Awesome. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.